sun is coming in just so, and it hurts too much to attempt to type or read on Facebook. I'm realizing I need to speak up. Everybody's still asleep in the house, and well, the boys are, anyways. And something came to mind this morning that I feel might help one or two more. Let's see. I wish I would harness these as soon as they fly through. The layers that are us. The outer layer is what most people see all the time and where a lot of people are right now, currently. And they don't know anything else, honestly. We are taught, seek outside of us, seek, what we, know of spirituality or our soul, to find connection outside of us. We're taught this, and this is for reasons to keep us separated from what is actually truth. Lots of fear-based things are presented to keep us further from this truth and to keep us at the shallow end, if you will, of our being. The shallow end of us. I am a female. I was born, I became a daughter, and then I became a sister, right? And then so on and so forth. And a whole bunch of more labels for the society, right? That's that outer layer. The next layer is just as simplistic to pay attention to, and we do often. The mental layer, right? Our intellect, our thought processes. As we lay there as a baby, not knowing titles or labels other than the people around us that are oogling and ogling and, dressing us up and giving us certain toys to look at, right? This is a cat. This is a dog. Eventually we are bombarded with the mental aspects so that, those around us have a more comfortable stance. Oh, he knows his colors, right? I did the same thing. It's a matter of providing the mental tools to get through life. You don't want to eat that. That's not food, Survival. We've got to do enough of it in order to get through this life, right? Unfortunately, a lot of us get stuck there, and then we have to process everything on a mental level. And then there's emotions. If you remove all the words as we're laying there as babies, we can see the emotions of the people. We might not understand the words yet, We might understand it fully deep within our heart, or we do understand it in this manner because as babies, we are naturally connected to all layers, right? So we might not understand the words that they're stating, of those that are around us, but we understand the emotion. Oh, they're happy today, they're sad today, they're upset today, etc. The emotional layer, right? But meanwhile, we're truly energetically processing what is presented to us. We are processing, oh, they're in a hurry, or whatever. We might not have the label for it, but whoa, they're rushing around. And again, we don't have the words for it necessarily, but we can sense it. None of these areas are gone. They're all within us constantly. We just get layered upon. And then again, with society and what is fed, especially on the fear-based levels that are in every direction. Oh, you can't go outside and play because somebody might. Oh, don't climb that, you might. etc., etc. Eventually, we are pulled out of this natural center and to the outer layers over and over again. The physical layers, the mental layers, the emotional layers for that matter as well. But meanwhile, we're truly connecting on an energetic level, right? This awareness is constantly there again since birth. We are aware of it, but then how many of us are told, no, that's not what I'm doing? I'm not mad. Why are you saying I'm mad? How many times have you heard that? Wow, you look really mad. I'm not mad. Okay, well, what are you? Are you upset? No, I'm not upset. And then whatever else they decide to spill back, right? Or even us as we walk around, and especially when it's all too much at times. But truly, again, since birth, that bliss, that inner space was always there. The first day of birth, we're just being that. We don't know about our outer layers. In fact, research has shown over and over again, we don't even know of our outer layer until about 18 months old. There's a constant, valid research project that has been repeated thousands of times, thus showing the validity of babies at even 16 and 17 months old. When they look in the mirror, they look behind the mirror to see who the person is that is looking at them, right? But then at 18 months old, this is repeated over and over again, and it's a constant age and a constant time in life that instead of looking behind the mirror, they start to explore what they see in the reflection of the mirror. Okay? So before 18 months old, we don't even know. We see our hand. Whoa, what is that? Oh, my hand is moving and picking this up. Whoa, what is that thing? My legs, these legs are moving. They're calling them legs. I have to call them legs too, depending, of course, upon uh, which culture you grow up in, which language you learn. There's how many names for the label legs. There's how many labels for each part of our body. So ultimately, with all those labels placed, if we strip all of that away and we sit back to a point when we were just first birthed, without the dysfunctional family we were born into, without all the labels of our culture placed upon us, trying to, give us a leg up, if you will, to this society. Here's words to place for everything. I mean, honestly, if we walked around in bliss and never had a single word for any item in front of us, there would be even more of that Tower of Babel, if you will. I'm going to hold this, thing, whatever this thing is, and I'm going to, use it in an inappropriate way. Would it be inappropriate? Not necessarily. Maybe there's 10,000 ways to use each thing, right? The overthinking part, the over concentration on the physical aspect for that matter. How many of us only focus to that and worry about that, especially in this society that causes this worry, beauty products and clothes and blah, blah, blah. Truly, the only way to get beyond all of that, because of the society that we do live in, is to sit in silence and get all the way back to that center space, letting go of all the labels that someone else has placed or we have allowed to continue, uh, to replace all levels of the thinking, honestly, if we just sit in silence and be. And then there's the ironic twist of, how do I express this by simply being and not speaking? That one always gets me. But until everybody can telepathically get it, and then I can just sit here and go, just be your inner self. Be your inner self. All the stuff that is layered upon us is what clouds covers the bliss that's within. And it's all placed on purpose to keep us from that very space that we all seek. So truly, it's very simple. If you think about it, on the level of, let's just use the sun because there it is, the trees, there they are. They're just being. They're not saying, oh, I'm the sun. Oh, am I too hot today? Oh, I'm just shining a little bit too bright over here. Oh, did I cause too much chaos with that solar flare yesterday? They don't think on those things, right? They're just being, just like every tree, every plant, every animal. They're not saying, I always use the dung beetle as a great example. Man, why do I have this job? Every day I gotta wake up, I gotta find crap, and I gotta move it around, and then I gotta eat it, and then poop it out, and then I gotta redo this every day. It doesn't sit there and process that. A bee doesn't say, oh, although unless you think about the bee movie, a bee doesn't really say, oh man, I gotta get up and go to work again today. They're just waking up and being, right? This is the same thing with us, honestly. If we just wake up and we just do whatever is in front of us, there's no need to worry about it. And then, on the outer layer, the physical layer, there's overthought process of, especially with the transgender part going around. There's so much research that it starts so soon. It's not something that's mental illness. It's not something that the parents encourage. It's not something that's influenced by society. It's very much there at a very early age, before a child can even start to quote unquote manipulate anything. That if they could just wake up, if each person can just wake up and be, honestly, without anybody saying anything, without anybody attacking, without anybody questioning, without anybody saying, this isn't right, this isn't moral, the Bible says this, the government says that. If we removed all of those things and we just woke up and we just were, and we just shined bright, just like the sun does every day, right? I feel like I'm just repeating more of what everybody else is, or not everybody else, but a lot of people are already saying. To truly feel it, know it, experience it, it makes a difference. Telling you, does it help? One day it will click. I guess that's how it works. I think to myself often, I wish I just had a single source I could just hand somebody and they just got it. Then it would just be easier. I could just continuously repeat the same source. Here you go. Here you go. The thing is, it doesn't seem that simple. Nor does it seem that simple to continue to allow the knowings to ripple once experienced, because each person still has to sit in that silence and find that space. And you've touched it. Every one of us has. Whether it's a kid when we're daydreaming, zoning off. That's another thing I want to add to it also. What I'm noticing big time in these last 20 plus years, a lot of the labels placed in a psychological level are also there for fear feeding, to make a person doubt, to make a person wonder, to make a person think. When really a lot of those labels are actually keeping us from our soul. A lot of those labels are keeping us from what is natural. A lot of those labels are placing something upon us that, one, are not even truth. Because if you think about it, anything that man has made, labels, items, man has created it. Someone in their space, from Freud on, right? From anyone on. Even if you go back on, Socrates level, it's still his own personal opinion and what he is viewing in the world. At the same time, once a person is in a space of connected with all that is that the man speaking or is that God speaking? That's the tricky part right there. I can tell you hands down, anyone that is making labels on a psychological level, that is man making something. And truly, and I've said this so many times, we can hold that label or we can let it go. An example of post-traumatic stress disorder, it's said over and over, OCD as well, all kinds of labels. It's impossible to heal from it. As soon as one lets go of the label, that's when you're healed, honestly. Okay, so a person likes to have their place in order. How is that a deficit? It only becomes a disorder when it controls your life and you're not able to live life. If you're not able to step outside of your home because of, fears, then that's a disorder. If a person, lives in an inner city where there's gunshots on a regular basis, random, and you just don't know when the next one's going to come, those are fears that are legitimate to have. That doesn't mean the person has some kind of agoraphobia. It means that the environment that surrounds them is causing such. This doesn't mean disorder by any means, but yet post-traumatic stress disorder is indeed placed on many people that live in these areas, especially young children. And in fact, it shows on a biological level. They will start puberty sooner because of it, etc. Obviously in war zones, which is why war zones are placed. If you can start a war and cause chaos within a person in their soul, then there's an upper hand. So those that are able to live through situations and still have at least a balanced disposition, which is often studied. How come some people are able to live in such situations and still have confidence and happiness? There's no rhyme or reason to it. Somebody that lives right next door to another person that had an easier childhood or a harder childhood, ate this way, ate that way, had plenty, didn't have enough. There's no rhyme or reason. It doesn't matter the circumstances. It all comes down to the personal choice of the individual and nothing more. So again, if we just get quiet, and honestly, that's a really good visual to do, is to just lay there and be as you were when first born. You can do this. You can connect with that in silence. You can lay beside yourself, for that matter. And even on a psychological level, this is often deemed as a label as well, when in fact, it's just taking an overall view outside of ourselves. And then we, step back in and we walk around again. We do this naturally as babies. It's not a disorder. So you can lay beside yourself and just see yourself as a baby and think of how would you care for yourself as a baby? What would you do differently for yourself in those moments? Or maybe there was a trauma later in your life. You can visit that moment in time and allow yourself to share. If I was here, if I was there, then when that moment happened, I would have protected you. You didn't know any better. You were trusting the people around you, etc. It's possible to do that to bring further healing to your existence. And in those moments, we're getting back to that inner core without all the other stuff on top of us. That's the goal and the way for the personal integration. Many times with trauma, our souls are ripped apart. You add to it the society that's constantly bombarding us with the superficial, shallow edge of the physical, the outer edge. It just keeps us from that inner space. So the point is, sit in silence and get to that area. And then once you get there, at any time throughout the day, you can be there. And once practiced enough, it's there all day long.